"Bill, sit down. We need to talk." I heard those words and immediately braced myself for whatever nonsense was about to come out of my wife's mouth. But when I saw her face, serious, almost grave, I struggled to keep a straight face. I almost burst out laughing but held it in because I already knew. I had known for weeks, maybe even months, and the only thing stopping me from losing it right then and there was the sheer absurdity of the situation. Sarah, my loving, devoted wife of 6 years, was about to confess. I could see it in the way she shifted in her seat, her fingers nervously playing with the hem of her blouse. She was preparing herself for the speech, the lies, the crocodile tears. But I was prepared, too. I took my time sitting down across from her, resting my hands on the table and looking her straight in the eyes. "Okay," I said, my voice calm. "Talk." She took a deep breath, like she was about to tell me some devastating news. "I've been thinking a lot," she began, her voice trembling. "And I don't know how to say this, but, oh, come on, Sarah," I interrupted, unable to help myself. "Just say it." She looked startled, as if she expected me to beg her to soften the blow. "I've met someone," she finally blurted out. There it was, the line I had been expecting. But what I didn't expect was what came next. "And I think I'm in love with him." I stared at her, pretending to process what she just said. If only she knew that I had already processed it weeks ago when I found the hotel receipts hidden in her purse, or when I saw the lipstick-stained shirt stuffed at the bottom of the laundry hamper that definitely didn't belong to me. Or my personal favorite, when I got a message from an unknown number with a video attachment. And what was in that video? Let's just say it was Sarah and her new love in a very compromising position at a hotel I had paid for. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. "So, let me get this straight. You've been cheating on me, and now you're coming clean." Sarah flinched at the word. "It's not like that," she rushed to say. "It just happened." I almost laughed again. "It just happened." That was rich. "So what do you want me to do with this information?" I asked, tilting my head. "Are you leaving me? Do you want a divorce?" She hesitated, which told me everything. She hadn't planned this far ahead. "I don't know," she admitted. "I still love you, Bill. I don't want to hurt you." I let out a small chuckle. "You don't want to hurt me? You've been sneaking around behind my back for months. And now you're sitting here telling me you're in love with another man? But you don't want to hurt me." She looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "Who is he?" I asked. Sarah's head snapped up. "What?" I shrugged. "I just want to know. If you're in love with him, I assume he's someone important, right?" Her mouth opened, but no words came out. That's when I knew this wasn't just some random fling. And I was right, because when she finally did answer, she gave me a name that sent a jolt of electricity through my spine, a name that made my blood run cold. And that's when I knew this wasn't just betrayal. This was war. I had mentally prepared myself for this moment. I thought I knew everything. The receipts, the lipstick stains, the secretive text messages. Each piece of evidence had led me to this conclusion long before she ever sat me down to talk. But nothing could have prepared me for the name that came out of her mouth. I felt my breath hitch in my throat, but I kept my expression neutral. I had learned a long time ago that showing emotion in a moment like this only gave the other person power. "Say that again," I said, my voice even. Sarah hesitated, her lips pressing together as she looked down at the table. She was afraid. Good. She should be. "Bill," she whispered, "I don't want you to be upset." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table, keeping my eyes locked on her. "Oh, I'm not upset, Sarah. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said his name is... who?" Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. She looked anywhere but at me. That's when I knew she was realizing her mistake. She shouldn't have said his name at all, because she had just confirmed something far worse than simple infidelity. I had assumed she was cheating with some random guy she met at work, or maybe some old flame she reconnected with online. That I could have expected. But the name she had just whispered, that was something else entirely. "You've got to be kidding me," I said, letting out a short laugh. "Him? Him?" Her silence spoke volumes. I could feel my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I ran a hand through my hair and exhaled slowly. Wow, I said, sitting back in my chair. I mean, really, Sarah? That's the best you could do. Her eyes darted toward mine, filled with confusion, maybe even shame. But I wasn't about to let her sit there and play the victim. Tell me something, I said. How long has this been going on? She shifted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. Bill, answer the question, Sarah. She swallowed hard before finally speaking. About 5 months. I let out a low whistle. 5 months, I repeated. 5 months. And you didn't think I'd notice? Or were you just hoping I'd be too stupid to put the pieces together? She flinched at my words. I wasn't trying to hurt you, she mumbled. I laughed at that, a real genuine laugh. You weren't trying to hurt me? I shook my head in disbelief. Sarah, you're having an affair with him. If you wanted to hurt me, this is exactly how you do it. She looked down at her lap, twisting the fabric of her blouse between her fingers. It's not like that, she whispered. I let out another laugh. Oh no? Then what is it like? Sarah? Please, enlighten me. She didn't answer. Instead, she sat there staring at the floor, her face pale and her hands trembling. And for the first time since this conversation started, I saw something flicker across her face that I hadn't expected. Not guilt, not sadness, not regret. Fear. And that's when I knew she wasn't just afraid of losing me. She was afraid of what was going to happen next. She knew she had just opened a door she couldn't close, and I was about to walk right through it. I sat there, letting the weight of her words settle. 5 months. 5 months of sneaking around. 5 months of lying to my face. 5 months of playing the role of the perfect wife while sharing a bed with him. Someone I never imagined would be the other man. I leaned back, rubbing a hand over my jaw, watching her fidget. She was unraveling. The confidence she had walked in with, now slipping through her fingers like sand. The cracks in her act were beginning to show. You haven't even asked me how I found out, I finally said. Sarah froze, her breath hitching. She hadn't expected that. Her lips parted slightly like she wanted to say something, but she hesitated. Maybe she thought admitting her affair was enough and that I wouldn't question further. Or maybe she was just afraid of what I already knew. Bill, She swallowed, her fingers clenching into fists. I just wanted to be honest. I couldn't keep it from you any longer. I barked out a laugh. Oh, so now you care about honesty, Sarah? If that were true, you would have told me 5 months ago. Her eyes flickered with something, guilt maybe, but it was too late for guilt. That ship had sailed. I stood up, pacing the length of the room, shaking my head. You know what's funny? I asked, glancing back at her. I had a dozen theories about who it could be. A coworker, someone from the gym, maybe even an old college boyfriend. But him never crossed my mind. Her silence was deafening. I turned to her fully now, my hands on my hips. So what? You thought you'd tell me, and I'd just accept it. I thought you'd understand, she whispered. I blinked. Understand? Understand what, Sarah? I asked, stepping closer. That my wife, my partner, threw away 6 years of marriage for someone who was supposed to have my back? That every time I kissed you goodnight, you were thinking about someone else? That every time I told you I loved you, you were waiting for an excuse to run into his arms? Tears welled up in her eyes. It's not like that. Then tell me, I challenged. Tell me exactly what it's like because, from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like betrayal. She sucked in a shaky breath, her hands trembling as she rubbed them against her jeans. I didn't mean to fall for him, Bill. It just happened. I clenched my jaw. That damn excuse again. You didn't mean to fall for him? I repeated slowly. So what, you tripped and fell into his bed? You accidentally booked a hotel room? You mistakenly called him instead of your husband when you needed someone to talk to. She let out a soft sob, covering her face with her hands. But I didn't feel bad. Not anymore. Because she wasn't the victim here. I wasn't going to let her twist this into something it wasn't. She had been prepared for an easy confession. She had expected a broken man sitting across from her, begging to know why. But that wasn't what she got. Instead, she got a man who had already known the truth, who had already accepted it, and was 2 steps ahead. Because while she thought she was breaking the news to me, she had no idea what I had planned. And when I finally revealed it, she'd regret ever opening her mouth. I stood there watching her crumble. The confident, self-assured woman who had walked into this conversation thinking she was in control was now just a shell of herself. And I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Sarah wiped at her eyes, forcing herself to look up at me. "Bill, please. I never wanted this to happen." I scoffed. "Never wanted it to happen? Then why did you let it go on for 5 months? Silence. "You had 5 months to come clean, Sarah. 5 months where every single day you could have stopped. 5 months where you looked me in the eyes, kissed me, and told me you loved me while lying through your damn teeth." She winced at my words, but I didn't let up. "What was I supposed to do?" she asked weakly. I stepped closer. "Oh, I don't know, Sarah. Maybe not cheat on your husband." Her mouth opened, but she had nothing to say. I let out a humorless laugh and shook my head. "You think this is the worst part for me?" I asked, crossing my arms. "The cheating? No, Sarah. The worst part is that you sat across from me night after night, pretending everything was fine. You pretended to be my wife, knowing damn well you were sharing a bed with him." I saw her flinch at that last part. Good. Her shoulders shook as she exhaled sharply. "I was scared, okay?" "Scared of what?" I asked. She swallowed hard. "Scared of losing you." I laughed again, a bitter sound that echoed through the room. "Sarah, you already lost me the second you chose him." Tears ran down her cheeks, but I had no sympathy left to give. I had wasted enough love on someone who didn't deserve it. And now it was my turn. I pulled my phone from my pocket, unlocking it with a quick swipe. Her eyes darted to it immediately. What are you doing?" she asked hesitantly. I smirked. "Since you've decided to be so honest, Sarah, let's see how he feels about honesty." Her breath hitched. "Bill, wait." But I was already dialing. She lunged toward me, trying to grab the phone, but I stepped back, holding up a finger. "Ah, you had your turn. Now it's mine." The call rang once, twice, and then, "Hey man, what's up?" His voice. The voice of the man who had been sleeping with my wife. I grinned, locking eyes with Sarah. "Oh, nothing much," I said casually. "Just sitting here with Sarah. Thought you might want to join the conversation." Dead silence on the other end. Sarah's face went pale, and that's when I knew I had just flipped the game on her. For a moment, there was nothing but silence, a long, stretching void of hesitation from the other end of the call. I could practically hear his brain scrambling to process what I had just said. Sarah stood frozen, eyes wide with pure panic, her fingers twitching as if she wanted to snatch the phone away but didn't dare move. Then, finally, his voice crackled through the speaker. "Bill." I grinned, but there was no humor in it. "The one and only." Another pause and then a shaky breath. What's going on?" I turned my gaze back to Sarah, watching as she wrung her hands together, her shoulders trembling. She looked like she was about to be sick. "What's going on?" I repeated, dragging out the words. "Well, buddy, I just thought you'd want to be part of this lovely little conversation. You know, since you've been such a big part of my marriage lately." I heard him exhale sharply. It was almost a relieved sound, like he was coming to terms with the fact that I knew. But he didn't hang up. That told me everything I needed to know. He was afraid. Afraid of what I'd say. Afraid of what I'd do. Sarah, on the other hand, was damned near hyperventilating. She reached out toward me, her voice barely above a whisper. "Bill, please." I took a step back. "Please what? Don't do this? Don't put you on the spot." I let out a sharp chuckle. "Sarah, I didn't do this. You did." She recoiled, and I turned my attention back to the phone. "So tell me, how long has it been?" Another silence. Then he sighed. "Bill, man, listen." "Oh, no, no, no. You listen." I cut him off. "You don't get to man me. You lost that right the second you decided to sneak around with my wife. Bill, let's just Just what? I snapped. Talk about it? Oh, we're talking now, aren't we? And hey, since we're in the spirit of honesty, why don't you tell me how long? I heard him swallow. Sarah was shaking her head furiously, silent tears rolling down her face. Then, finally, he said it. 7 months. The room tilted. My stomach dropped. Sarah had told me 5. I had expected lies, but this, I let out a hollow laugh. 7. 7 months. Sarah let out a choked sob. Bill, I held up a hand, cutting her off. No. No more words. No more lies. Just shut up. She clamped her mouth shut, her whole body trembling. I turned my attention back to the phone. So, I said, voice eerily calm. Tell me, when did you two first decide I was some kind of idiot? Another silence. I never thought that, he murmured. I scoffed. Right? That's why you were sneaking around behind my back like I wouldn't figure it out. Sarah's shoulders shook with silent sobs, but I was beyond caring. I had spent months unknowingly playing the fool. I had loved a woman who had no problem stabbing me in the back. And the worst part? She hadn't even respected me enough to tell me the truth. No, I had to drag it out of her. I let out a slow breath. You know what's funny? I asked. I thought I'd be furious when this moment came. I thought I'd scream, break things, maybe even throw a punch. I let my gaze drift to Sarah, who was barely holding herself together. But standing here now, looking at her, I shook my head, a strange calm washing over me. I just feel sorry for her, Sarah gasped, and the guy on the phone didn't say a word. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You want her? You can have her. Then, without waiting for a response, I ended the call. Sarah let out a small, strangled cry. Bill, please. But I was already walking away. And this time I wasn't looking back. Sarah stood there, frozen in place, as if she couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Her lips parted slightly, her eyes darting between me and my phone, as if she expected me to change my mind, to take it all back. But I wasn't going to. Not this time. I had spent years being the reliable, predictable husband. The man who forgave, who overlooked things, who always assumed the best in people. And for what? So that my wife could spend 7 months making a fool out of me? No, that version of me was dead and gone. I grabbed my car keys from the counter and made my way toward the front door. Behind me, I heard her stumble forward. Bill, please wait. Just talk to me. Don't just walk away. I stopped with my hand on the doorknob and turned to look at her. Really look at her. Her makeup was smudged, her cheeks tear-streaked, her entire body trembling as she clutched at the front of her shirt like she was physically trying to hold herself together. A month ago, I would have caved. A week ago, even. But now I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just an empty, hollow acceptance of what was. And what was? That Sarah had never loved me the way I had loved her. That she had made her choice the moment she let another man into her life. That I had been nothing more than a convenience to her until I wasn't. You don't get to beg now, I said, my voice calm. You lost that right. She let out a choked sob, stepping closer. I made a mistake, okay? But I still love you, I do. I don't know why I did this. I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. That's the thing, Sarah. You do know. You did this because you wanted to, because you thought you could get away with it. She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. And don't give me that I still love you nonsense. If you really loved me, you wouldn't have done this. If you had any respect for me, you wouldn't have lied for 7 months. Her face crumpled, and for a brief second, I saw something flicker in her expression. Something I hadn't seen before. Panic. Real panic. Not just guilt, not just regret. She had assumed I would fight for her, for our marriage. She had assumed that I would be devastated, maybe even willing to work through it. But I wasn't. I was done. She took another step forward, her breathing ragged. Bill, please, I don't want to lose you. I let out a humorless laugh. Sarah, you already lost me. And with that, I walked out the door. The night air hit me like a slap to the face, cool and crisp, smelling like rain. I took a deep breath, letting it settle inside me, letting the reality of the moment truly sink in. I had just walked out on my cheating wife, and for the first time in months I felt free. I climbed into my car, gripping the steering wheel as my mind raced. I had no plan, no idea where I was going. All I knew was that I couldn't be in that house anymore. Not with her. Not with the ghost of everything we used to be lingering in every room. As I pulled onto the road, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Sarah. I ignored it. She called again and again. By the fifth call, I shut off my phone completely. She didn't deserve my time. She didn't deserve me. And tomorrow, she'd realize just how much she had truly lost. I drove for hours, letting the street lights blur past me in streaks of yellow and white, my knuckles tight around the wheel. I wasn't angry, not in the way she probably assumed I would be. I wasn't screaming, wasn't punching the dashboard. No, this was something colder, final. I didn't have a destination in mind, but I wasn't about to go to a friend's house and unload all my problems. Not yet. I needed space. I needed to be alone with the reality of what had just happened. Sarah had cheated, lied, manipulated, and when she finally got caught, she acted like she was the victim, like I was the one making a mistake by leaving. But the truth? The mistake had been staying for as long as I had. Somewhere around 2 in the morning, I pulled into an empty parking lot outside a 24-hour diner. The place was dimly lit, mostly empty, and exactly what I needed. A quiet corner of the world where no one knew me. I stepped inside, the warm scent of coffee and frying bacon wrapping around me like a blanket. A tired-looking waitress barely glanced up from her notepad as she waved me toward a booth in the back. I slid into the cracked vinyl seat, exhaling slowly. And that's when it really hit me. My marriage was over. There was no fixing this, no working through it, no couples therapy or second chances. I had walked out, and for the first time in 7 months, I had made the right choice. A cup of coffee was placed in front of me without me even asking for it. The waitress, a woman in her late 50s with dark circles under her eyes, gave me a knowing look. "Long night?" she asked, pulling a pin from behind her ear. I let out a low chuckle. "You could say that," she smirked. "I've seen that look before. Someone break your heart." I took a sip of the coffee, letting the bitterness settle on my tongue. "Something like that." She nodded, tapping her pen against her notepad. "Well, let me tell you something, sweetheart. Anyone who makes you feel like this ain't worth the trouble." I huffed out another laugh, shaking my head. "Yeah, I'm starting to realize that." She scribbled something onto her pad before sliding it across the table. "Pie on the house. Bad nights call for good pie." I glanced down at her scrawled handwriting. Apple or cherry? For the first time all night, I smiled. "Cherry." She nodded, disappearing toward the kitchen. And for a moment, I just sat there staring at the chipped coffee cup in front of me, letting the stillness of the night settle into my bones. Sarah was probably panicking by now, pacing the house, leaving desperate voicemails. Maybe she thought I'd cool off and come home. Maybe she thought I'd be weak enough to forgive her. She had no idea. She had severely underestimated me. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, turning it back on. Immediately, the screen lit up with notifications. 12 missed calls, 6 voicemails, and then a text. I tapped on it, already expecting the usual nonsense. The "Please, Bill, just come home," or "I made a mistake," or "We can work through this." But what I saw instead, it wasn't from Sarah. It was from him. And the words on the screen made my stomach drop. "Bill, I need to talk to you. There's something you don't know." I stared at the message, my blood turning ice cold. Something I didn't know? No, I already knew everything, didn't I? I sat there staring at my phone screen, my pulse hammering in my ears. His message kept flashing at me like a warning light, those words digging into my brain. "Bill, I need to talk to you. There's something you don't know." Part of me wanted to ignore it. I had no interest in hearing excuses from the guy who had been sneaking around with my wife for the past 7 months. What could he possibly say that would change anything? But another part of me, the part that needed to know the full truth, couldn't let it go. So, against my better judgment, I picked up my phone and called him. It barely rang once before he picked up. Bill, make it quick. I cut him off, my voice flat. There was a pause, then a deep sigh. Look, man, I know you have every reason to hate me, and I won't try to justify what I did. It was wrong, I get that. But you don't know the full story. I clenched my jaw. Then tell me. Another pause. Then finally he spoke. She lied to me too. I frowned. What the hell does that mean? I didn't know she was married, he admitted, his voice tight. Not at first. She told me she was divorced, that her husband, you, had walked out on her years ago. I only found out a few weeks ago that she was still with you. I sat back in the booth, stunned. She lied to him too. He kept going. When I confronted her, she swore she was leaving you soon, that you two were just roommates at this point. I didn't believe her. That's when I started putting things together. That's when I realized she wasn't just lying to you. She was lying to both of us. I exhaled slowly, letting that sink in. Sarah hadn't just been having an affair. She had been playing both sides, manipulating, deceiving, keeping me as her stable safety net while sneaking around with him. And now she had lost both of us. I let out a low chuckle, shaking my head. Guess we both got played, huh? Yeah, he admitted, his voice laced with regret. And man, I'm sorry. I really am. If I had known, I never would have. Stop, I said. I don't need an apology from you. She made her choices and I made mine. He went quiet for a moment, then said, So what now? I thought about it for a second, then smiled. Now I move on. I hung up before he could say another word. For the first time all night, I felt light, like I had finally dropped a weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. Sarah had lost everything. Her marriage, her affair, her lies unraveling all at once. And me? I was free. I finished my coffee, left a tip for the waitress, and walked outside. The cool night air wrapped around me, but this time it didn't feel suffocating. Felt like a fresh start. Tomorrow I'd start the process of divorcing her. Tomorrow I'd begin rebuilding. And tomorrow would be the first day of a life where I wasn't just someone's backup plan. It was time to start living for me.